Hare Krishna. Gauranga. It's working, isn't it? Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's working now. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Antara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Srila Prabhupada ki Samveda Bhaktivedanta ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So today we're reading from chapter 3, text number 40. This is Karma Yoga.
Hare Krishna.
Number 40, okay. A bit awkward. That's good. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, chapter 3, text number 40. Karma Yoga. Indriyani manobodhi asyadhistananam uchyate eta vimortayana esa jnanana avitadehinam. Indriyani manobodhi asyadhistananam uchyate eta vimoyata esa jnanam avitadehinam. Indriyana manobodhi asyasti danam uchyate eta vimoya ite esa jnana nama vitadehinam. Indriyani manobodhi asyasti uchyate Indriyana manobodhi asyadhisana uchyate esa amritadehinam. Indriyani manobodhi asyavicha So word for word, Indriyani, the senses, Mana, the mind, Buddhi, the intelligence, Asya, of this lust, Adhisthanam, sitting place, Uchyate is called, Ete, by all these, Vimoyati, bewilders, Esa, this lust, Jnanam, knowledge, Avritya, covering, Dehinam, of the embodied. Translation, Prabhupada by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. To them lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Repeat responsibly. The senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. And therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses, and thus when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus the mind and the senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. This false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Yasyatma buddhi kanuki tri deduke swadi kalyadeshu bhoma ija hidi yatita buddhi sarinakari chit janesu abhigya swa eva gokara. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with the self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsman, who considers the land of his birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath, rather than to meet men of transcendent knowledge there, is considered to be like an ass or a cow. Om Agyan Timandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chaksuna Militamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapita Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastor Charisatayine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sivata Gadada Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I heard a lecture tape. Srila Prabhupada is covering text 29 to 43 on chapter 3. So in the lecture, Prabhupada is in the beginning explaining how everyone has to become a servant. You can't get anyone not becoming a servant in the whole world. You find anyone in the whole universe, everyone is a servant of someone. So example Prabhupada gives, President Johnson, he was asked to leave his prime minister post. He was pulled down, but actually he was a servant of the society. And the family man who goes home, his servant, his husband is serving the family. The person who goes to work, he's serving the boss. Everyone is a servant. And if no one agrees to be a servant of anyone, he'll become a servant of dog. So the higher understanding is to become a servant of God. So either you become a servant of God or servant of dog. And then further on, he went on to explain how why does someone want to get into government services? Because they have a lot of facility. But higher than doing government services, be serving God, serving Krishna, because serving Krishna is higher than anything in this world. So next point is, it talks about lust in the purport. So let's analyze what is lust is. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says, I forget the sounds, maybe you know it, the Bengali or something, but anyway, the English is quite clear. It says, love is like gold, love for Krishna is like gold, and lust is like iron. So, even in serving lust, you are serving lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness. You're servant of these six. It's not like you're independent in your way of serving. You're serving so many other things besides. And even by serving them, you're not happy. You're dissatisfied. So, so we can see in this way how serving lust causes suffering. It doesn't cause happiness. So the example is given how Ravana was trying to enjoy Sita separate from Ram. And in this way, he ruined himself. So in the same way, anyone who's trying to enjoy Lakshmi separate from Narayan will also ruin themselves. And we can see in the modern world that's what's happening. People are denying God. They don't want to put Krishna in the center. And they're trying to put themselves higher than God. Like, was it Indonesia, isn't it? Bhaktivedanta Manor saying Indonesia, in that country, Indonesia, huh? Indonesia, yeah, in that country, Indonesia, there's a law by the government that you have to believe in God. If you don't believe in God, you can't stay in that country. So the government was analyzing different religions in that country, and they found that the Hindus, they don't have a very good religion because they worship many gods. This is how they were thinking. The Muslim government were thinking like that. So they went to the Hindus and they said, we don't accept Hinduism as a religion. We're going to throw you out of the country. So the Hindus, they had to think very deeply what to do, There are many discussions. And they came with the understanding that they worship Achinta. They worship a deity called Achinta. And they made a form like a woman with a face. But then Maharaj gave another view on it. He said how there was a Muslim who came in that he spoke to Maharaj. He said, actually, I'm an atheist, but I was just saying in this country, I've cited myself as a Muslim. But he said, I've noticed you group of people, you're very nice in your activities, and I'm happy to support you. So we can see from this example how there are many cheaters in this world who want to be not accept who Krishna is. I mean, just imagine the Hare Krishnas are there in that country, and the Hindus didn't go to them for guidance. So that shows how there are cheaters and cheated. So this is what this is what happens when you separate Lakshmi from Narayan. You enjoy yourself. You don't want to put Krishna in the center. Then Maya comes in to cover the jiva up. So to go deep into the subject on how to overcome this lust, is that we have to, Prabhupada says, we have to change it around to love for Krishna. But even to do that, you have to come to more of goodness. This is a challenge we have to take, to come to more of goodness. Only then can you understand who Krishna is. Because it says even demigods who are in the mode of goodness, or great sages, they can't understand Krishna. So it's only by the mercy of a devotee that you can understand who Krishna is. Prabhupada gave the argument, he said, people are happy to embrace mode of passion and ignorance than to embrace, to go to goodness, to understand who Krishna is. Actually, the mode of goodness is like a springboard. Example is given, just like if you go to the airport. If you just go to the airport just for the sake of going, you have no goal, you achieve nothing. But if you're going for the sake of going on a certain flight to achieve your goal, you reach your destination. So the mode of goodness is like that. It's a springboard to take you to the mode of pure goodness. And from the mode of pure goodness, you can understand who Krishna is. So those who are enamored by passion and ignorance, they have no chance of understanding Krishna. And it says if someone doesn't cultivate the mode of goodness, so these he allows himself to be affected by passion, then example is given how passion is you're doing too many things, you're not allowing yourself to be thoughtful. You're not allowing Krishna to speak to you because you're making your voice louder than Krishna's voice. So in this way, you're not allowing Krishna to speak to you. And goodness is compared to like you're too passive, you're too in a mode of silence, meditation. So it's only when you actually pray sincerely from within your heart that you want to. Actually, this was the thing with Narada Muni that happened. This is why he didn't see Krishna within that lifetime. Because Narada Muni was very much attached to staying in the forest. He wanted to see countryside, stay in the forest and like that. This is why when he went into meditation, which the great sages taught him to do that meditation, even the Kumaras, maybe some great sages taught him to do some meditation. So he went to them, after traveling for a certain time, he went to some secluded place and he did his meditation. So initially Krishna appeared to him, but then he tried the meditation again, Krishna didn't appear. But then he heard a voice in the sky telling him that you will not see me in this lifetime, you will see me at the end of this lifetime. And in his Sankalpa Kamodi, Srila Shivaram Swami comments on this point, saying how because Narada Muni was into mode of goodness too much, he didn't see Krishna within that same lifetime. So this is why we have to transcend mode of goodness also, to come to pure goodness. From my understanding, lust doesn't mean just attachment for. It can mean anything. That someone lust to become famous. It can refer to many things, right? So, in other words, you have to turn all these things for Krishna's pleasure. Then, example is given, just like when the gopis saw Krishna, their attachment came towards him, but because they were attached to him, that lust turned into love for Krishna. And in the Krishna book, Prabhupada gives an example, it's like it's a pea fried. Once you fry a pea, it doesn't sprout, isn't it? So even whatever you're going through in your life, anger, lust, greed, um, you turn into Krishna, you become purified. So this human form of life is achieved after 8,400,000 species, and the civilized human form of life is very rarely achieved. So now Lord Chaitanya has come, so he's giving the mercy very freely to everyone. So if we take this mercy with open hands, then our perfection is very easily achieved. Example is giving or achieving the human form of life. Prabhupada gives a nice example in one of his calendars. He says how sometimes some people keep birds in their cages, isn't it? Parrots or something. So keep birds in their cage. And sometimes they let them go free. But then the birds come back to the cage again. So in the same way, the human form of life is like that. Now, we evolved from, there's evolution which happens from reptile to trees, butterflies. There's a whole process which happens, brings to human form of life. So in the human form of life, you can come out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And the change happens through association. In the human form of life, you can change your nature by association. Lord Prabhupada gives an example. He said, someone asked him a question, is it possible for us to become advanced devotees? And Prabhupada said, yeah, the devotees are here, associate with them, you become advanced. So if you associate with drunkards, you become a drunkard, and if you associate with devotees, you become a devotee. Yeah, there was a interesting story in the Mahabharata. It's given how if you are very sincere in your spiritual advancement, then Krishna will send you to proper people to guide you on the path. And in Mahabharata, there's an instance given how Vyasadeva, he appeared to one worm. And Vyasadeva came and speak in different languages. He spoke to that worm. And so that worm, he just gave up his body, he just got someone, a cart went over and gave up his body. Then next life he became a higher species of maybe a deer or a dog, something. He became higher species until he became a human again. Until that point, Vyasadeva was guiding him what to do, like to the... So he says, Krishna appears in all species of life to guide all living entities, right? He's appearing in different species to guide different living entities. So in this instance, Vyasadeva was guiding this particular soul to achieve perfection. So what to say about if someone achieves human life, perfection is easy to achieve. He just, being in the material world is full of ignorance and matter. So in order to survive in this material world, you have to be alert of Krishna in all circumstances. If you're alert of Krishna, then Maya will not affect you. And Srila Prabhupada gave a nice example in this lecture. I heard 168 Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada gave the example. He said, in his time, he was going to some house to do something, and the policeman was there. So Prabhupada asked his policeman that, why are these people running, And the policeman said, because they're criminals. So for the good citizen, the policeman is a friend. But for the criminal, the policeman, when he sees a policeman, he will run. So in the same way, devotees don't have to fear Maya. Because Maya is Krishna's pure devotee. The non-devotees have to fear Maya. And Prabhupada actually went further to explain how is it that the non-devotees don't want to know their future life. They're in denial. Why? Because if they knew their future life, they'll be horrified. They couldn't live. So although the material body is a bad bargain, but it's the best use also. Because it's only in this human form of life you can actually become God realized. There's so in this particular time period which we are going through now is a very special time period, because Lord Chaitanya appeared very recently, and Srila Prabhupada came even recently than that. And there was an instance in Tamar Krishna Maharaj had hernia, and when they put him on anesthetic, he had a dream. And in his dream, he saw Prabhupada speaking to all the other acharyas. And they were asking Srila Prabhupada, how is the mission on the earth planet going on spreading Krishna consciousness? And Prabhupada said, it's very good. It's going very well. So when Tamar Krishna Maharaj woke up, he asked Prabhupada, was it a dream or was it a real thing? And Prabhupada said, this was a real thing. So we can see from this story how apparently things may be going really like cloudy and difficult at this period, but actually there's a big purification happening. Because Prabhupada, he got his devotees to get out so many books, so much Harinam, Prasadam distribution. So there's a lot of purification happening out there. And there'll be many people becoming devotees of Krishna in the future. But, being in the material world, it's a place of misery. So Krishna doesn't want us to stay here. So generally people are too materially attached. So Krishna creates a situation like this, COVID and so many things which happen, to remind people this is not your home. You have to come back to me. So there's a quote by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, quite interesting quote. Who is learned? Here's a quite interesting point. He says, A devotee of the Lord whose intelligence is illuminated with Vedic knowledge is actually learned. The Shastra states, Pandito Bando Moksha Vid Mukha Dat Aham Buddhi. A wise man is one who knows the process of freedom from bondage, and a fool is one who identifies with his material body and mind. Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 19, 41, 42. One who considers the material body the self is certainly a fool, even though he may be certified educated. Mundane scholars are aware only of mundane sound vibration, since they are conditioned by Maya and consider the body the self. They are unable to realize the scriptures' actual purport. Because Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures are non-different from the Supreme Lord, they are understood and realized only by devotion. Since the proud mundane scholars are devoid of devotional service to the Lord, they are intoxicated by false ego. Therefore, how will such proud people understand the confidential purport of the Shastras headed by the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are non-different from the Lord? Can an idol maker see the Lord's deity form? If wealth, beauty, high birth and learning are not attributed to the proper candidates, they cause ruination. For non-devotees, they are as good as death. If they give anxiety, cause material existence and enhance the false ego. For devotees, however, they are ornaments and do not produce anarthas. The meaning of the Shastra and the meaning of the material sound vibration is not the same. The Shastras appear to contain mundane words, but they are full of transcendental sound vibration. They are the incarnations of Supreme Lord. Therefore the Mahajans said that transcendental subject matter is inconceivable. The Shastras can be realized only by devotee practicing devotional service, not by worldly academic learning. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Srinivas Prabhu, for your lovely class. I had one question. You were mentioning in the early part of your class how there's 6 sinful qualities: envy, greed, anger, lust. And we can have these aspects in our life, but to purify or to get rid of these qualities, we can repose that attention to Krishna, that quality to Krishna. And I'm thinking, like, anger you can utilize for the blasphemers, how the gopis had, approached Krishna with lust and it turned into love. How can we do that? How can we, for example, anger, how can we repose that to Krishna without so many blasphemers around us? Maybe we haven't got the chance to repose that attention or that anger, because we're not in the association of blasphemers. So how can we have a chance still to purify that anartha?
Well, Vishwambara gave a good answer to that, isn't it? Vishwambara, in his class on Sunday, he gave a good answer to that. He said he was building an extension to his house, and the council didn't allow it. They broke it down. So Tamar Krishna Maharaj phoned him and said, "How are you doing?" And he told Tamar Krishna Maharaj, "I'm very angry with Krishna." So then Tamar Krishna Maharaj said, "Krishna likes that. He likes you to reciprocate with him." And the other example he gave is Lord Varaha fighting with Hiranyaksha. When Hiranyaksha was hitting Lord Varaha, Lord Varaha was very happy. And the other example is, Jambavan, right? Krishna fought with him for 28 days and nights. And Prabhupada comments in the Krishna book that Krishna also likes a fight. He chooses his devotees who can fight with, isn't it? So Jambavan was the strongest person on the planet at that time. And he was bewildered. He thought, how is I'm getting pains in my body, you know? Then he realized who Lord Krishna was, the same Lord Ramachandra and like that.
So it's okay to be angry with Krishna even when we're trying to serve him?
Well, the main thing is Krishna should be the center. That's the main point. You know, like, but obviously there are different categories of devotees who have different relationship with Krishna. But the best way is in line of pure devotion service is to I mean, even Prabhupada used to become angry with devotees, isn't it? Sometimes he used to get angry. But this was in connection, correcting them to serve Krishna properly, isn't it? And then Prabhupada used to let go his anger very quickly as well. Never used to get attached to it, like just drop it. Never happened. So, main thing is that Krishna should be the center. Then you get purified from the anatta. Shouldn't be for your own center. It should be for Krishna's pleasure. Then you become free from it. Isn't it?
You spoke and said that when someone's in passion, they're doing many things, and sometimes we find even here when we are trying to juggle lots of services. So does that mean we're kind of in passion, and is that a problem, or are we because if we're doing devotional service properly, then is it technically not passion?
Well, Bhurijan Prabhu answered that question in his Sundaram to me. He said how, because he asked a question to Prabhupada about something to do with transcendence. And Prabhupada said, no, you have to come to mode of goodness first, then you can transcend. Without coming to goodness, you can't transcend. So then he explained that in his talk. He said how unless you're practicing mode of goodness, you can't fit into Krishna's plan. And he gave the example of Arjuna. Now look at Arjuna, he was fighting the battle of Kurukshetra. That's mode of passion. But he fit into Krishna's plan because he was practicing mode of goodness at some point. So you have to be in mode of goodness, and then you know how Krishna wants you to fit into his plan. But someone is in mode of passion, but he's not practicing goodness, he won't know how to fit into Krishna's plan. So this is the point. So for a devotee, he should be finishing his rounds off first. Then he'll know how to fit into Krishna's plan. Like Prabhupada said, at least by 10 in the morning, you should have done 16 rounds. And Srila Bhakti Chirumar said even further, he said, at least by 7 you should have done 16 rounds, or at least 13, 14. Like that. Then you know how to fit into Krishna's plan. Like that. Any other questions? Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for that amazing class. It really highlighted the importance of this human life and the opportunity that it gives us. But I was just wondering, building on the idea of the modes, if we ourselves are situated in ignorance or passion, And I find personally when I'm in, especially ignorance, ideas such as etiquette and how to behave in the temple, which is in the mode of goodness, they don't. I'm averse to it when I'm in these modes of ignorance. But still, should I force myself to act in a way which is in the mode of goodness?
Yeah, by acting in the mode of goodness, you come to mode of goodness.
Okay.
Mode of goodness it means you do everything in discipline, discipline. Mode of ignorance is you do everything upside down, right? Like that. So by acting mode of goodness, you'll come to mode of goodness. And Prabhupada gives 2 ways on this. He says, one could be doing his duties in life, in the outside world, and then by doing that duty, he'll come to goodness eventually. The other way is you hear Krishna Katha from devotees, or you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita like that regularly, and this will bring you to mode of goodness very quickly. Like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother.
Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Jai.